You are trying to do this once, but you only get one shot at an ideal retirement. Smart people learn from their own mistakes. We do not have that time or luxury in retirement.
Hi, Peter. Welcome back, everyone. This is for everyone who wants to retire in 2025. We have 5 money moves that you need to make before you retire. So retirement planning, as we know, usually takes place over decades. Checking in with yourself throughout the planning process can keep you on track, but you also need to give your finances a really hard look before you tell your boss goodbye. So let's walk through those 5 money moves. Number 1, determine when you need to claim Social Security.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously a big one. Although people have concerns about Social Security, it is still a foundational piece for retirement. And these 5 questions, by the way, they answer the big question: am I ready to retire? And I meet so many people who are like, hey, I'm sick of work. When can I retire?
Right.
They're emotionally ready to retire, but financially, when are you truly prepared to face decades where you're not earning an income? Retirement, right? So when are you financially prepared to retire? Social Security is still a big piece of solving that puzzle. And there's kind of 2 schools of thought. There is the get it while the getting's good, rush out and get it at 62. And then there's the school of thought, max it out, wait all the way till 70, because the break even and profitable point is well within our average life expectancy these days. And I think there's a kernel of truth on both sides of that, but neither one are universally correct. The Social Security calculators online always sort of keep Social Security in a vacuum and do not coordinate with the rest of your financial picture. Like, when are you having to draw out assets otherwise? And if you factor that back into the equation, it can change where that break even point is. So I think that the right answer on Social Security is to use it as an effective tool to protect your personal assets as much as possible. Because if you've got extra spending needs, you can't reach in and pull extra out of Social Security. And if you pass away early, the rest of your Social Security doesn't go on to next generation beneficiaries. That's what your personal assets do. So as much as possible, we want to optimize Social Security. We want to coordinate Social Security to use it as a means to protect your financial stability for the years, the decades of retirement.
Mm. And then next, of course, this one seems essential. You need to determine whether you have adequate savings, but how will we know?
Well, that's a reverse engineering process that involves the answer to the first one, and actually going through the process of defining your expenses, your lifestyle, your bills, your obligations, your line items, plus your standard of living, the things that you want to do. How much does that cost on a regular recurring basis? And for most people, like, again, we're talking about making the transition into retirement. So a lot of people are used to their paycheck coming in where they don't have to pinch every penny and stretch every dollar and pay as much attention to the budget. But we're talking about preparing for the day after that stops, when we've got a finite amount of money and an unknown amount of time that we need to make that last. So how do we know that we've got adequate savings? Well, we've got to define our budget and our lifestyle expenses. And then again, number 1 was we optimize Social Security. Well, let's subtract that out of the equation. How much is left? What is your income gap? And from there, we can sort of figure out what is the appropriate amount of adequate assets to be able to generate a cash flow that fills that gap on a predictably sustainable basis, that we can depend on these assets, this amount, to be able to generate the income that fills that gap moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Next, you need to decide on a withdrawal strategy. Of course, I think most of us are pretty familiar with the 4% rule. We've heard of that.
Theory.
But then, of course, Peter, there is another school of thought which says you need to tap your taxable bucket first, then your tax deferred, then your Roth bucket. What do we need to keep in mind here?
Yeah, well, the 4% rule is just a theory. It was incepted in a very different set of economic circumstances by a financial analyst named William Bengen, who said that it was for institutional use, not for individual use. I've interviewed him before. He also said that it kind of negates the possibility of a large downturn in the market in the first few years of retirement. So those factors, plus the years and years of research since have said that this is not necessarily the most reliable way to build your retirement, relying on this 4% theory, which says that you should be able to take a 4% cash flow year one from your nest egg, whatever it is, and then adjust for inflation into the years after that. But that always left a accepted probability of failure. And if the weatherman says that there's a 10% chance of rain today, I may feel comfortable leaving my house without my umbrella. But if my forecast for retirement leaves a 10% probability, accepted probability of me running out of money, I'm not so comfortable. I'm going to tighten up. I'm not going to do a whole lot of the things that I wanted to do. So I'm not in love with the 4% theory. I think there are other ways to go about this that hopefully actually leave us more discretionary assets, but we do need to create income in an efficient manner. So in general, I do agree with that order of operations. It's like an algebra test, right? In order to get the right answer, you have to have the correct order of operations to solve the problem. I do think that there is a best or optimal way to access certain types of assets, whether it be tax deferred, like your 401k or traditional IRA, whether it be non-qualified, just investment money, or whether it be tax-free, like Roth money. There is a correct order of operations, but it's not as universal as it is in algebra. There are some exceptions where things should be reordered for the specifics of somebody's situation. So we also need to keep that in mind.
Of course. Next, of course, you need to schedule check-ins, review your finances before and, of course, throughout your retirement, especially in the first year or two. How often, though, do you think retirees are doing this? And how often do you think they're surprised by what they find or what they're spending?
Well, they're not doing it nearly often enough, both in their working years and throughout retirement. And as a result, many times they are very surprised. In fact, this is actually one of the common homework assignments that I give as we are talking to a not yet client, but somebody interested in planning for their retirement. Is I ask, well, how much does it cost for you to live the lifestyle that you are accustomed to? And they throw out a number. Sometimes they keep a budget and that's where it's coming from. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just kind of ballparking. And then we have a specific homework practice that I assign in order to really drill down that. Because I could be the best marksman in the world, but if I'm not aiming for the correct target, then I'm not getting the mission accomplished. So I need to be sure from my side that I am aiming for the correct target. And a lot of times people come back and they're very surprised by how much they're actually spending. It is far off from what they sort of estimated or ballparked. And it changes every year. It changes on an ongoing basis. In fact, when we look back from month to month, there's going to be some high months, there's going to be some low months. We want to sort of get the average and target that, but from year to year, that average is going to change. And that's why you do need to check up on things. By the way, the first few years of retirement are always a little bit of figuring out the new reality. Even just from a tax standpoint, during your working career, you had a paycheck, taxes were withheld, and you generally just about knew what the tax result was going to be when you filed. Whereas in retirement, you've got multiple different streams and you've got to figure all of that out for yourself. So especially the first few years right before retirement, you need to be going through this exercise. And then the first few years of retirement, you need to really drill down on figuring these things out. And it should be reviewed every year into and throughout retirement, because your life is going to change. The world around us is going to change. It is going to change the context of the design of the plan.
And last, and perhaps most important, before you retire, consult an advisor.
Yeah. I mean, you are trying to do this once, but you only get one shot at an ideal retirement. Smart people learn from their own mistakes. We do not have that time or luxury in retirement. So dealing with somebody who's had experience seeing retirement time and time over and over again has substantial benefits. Dealing with somebody who has seen what has worked for others and maybe what has not worked so well for others has substantial benefits to your ultimate success. You want to do it right. You don't want to say, whoops, better luck next time, a do-over retirement. And there are some people who don't want to completely retire. They just want to rewire and de-stress. But even that, I think, does take some pretty careful planning. You want to look at lifestyle. And the day after you retire, you want to be able to enjoy the lifestyle that you envision and not be glued to the screen or the stock market or paying attention to the finances minute by minute, day by day, year by year. That's where the relationship with an advisor allows you to enjoy life, allows them to pay attention to the money, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do so that you can continue to enjoy the life that you envision. And ultimately, probably address some things that most people were not aware of. You don't want blind spots or things that have been left unaddressed that could derail your retirement. The benefit of working with an advisor, hopefully they're going to spot and identify those things ahead of time. They're going to play Murphy in the conversation and say, well, what can go wrong? What will go wrong? Might it go wrong at the exact worst time? And if you still are successful on paper during that planning process, then you should be able to go out and live your retirement life with a relatively high level of confidence.
Mm-hmm. Clearly an important checklist before we retire. Peter, I'm glad you laid out the fact that it is very different from being emotionally ready to retire.
Right?
Depends
We all
on
are, right? Yeah, I'm so
Yes.
ready to retire. Everybody probably could say, hey, I'm ready to just go out and enjoy my time. But we have to make a deal. We trade our time for money so that hopefully one day we can stop making that trade, but only if we do the right things with our money can we maintain that level of success.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, if somebody would like to talk through this checklist with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, we do offer the opportunity to put together a complimentary, optimized retirement plan, no cost, free of charge for anybody interested in looking at income, investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy. Those items and many, many subcategories are included in the optimized retirement plan. It takes a couple hours to get all of that put together, a couple different conversations. We share as much or as little information as you feel comfortable. But if you would like to get that put together for your situation, analyzing where you're at, where you'd like to be, what you have that's going to help you get there, give me a call, 919-300-5886. 919-300-5886. You can also go online. It looks like richonplanning.com. It is my last name, richonplanning.com. And there's a place on the website where you can schedule a call or a consultation, review and strategy session, and get that optimized retirement plan put together. You can also email me, peter@richonplanning.com. But if you don't have a plan or if you want to review that plan, please give me a call, be in touch. Would love to sit down with you, have a conversation, and put together that optimized retirement plan.
So important. Peter, thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. You know, one of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.